All right, we're live. Hello, this is Dani Caputo from Tea and Talks, and this is the wonderful Leanna Hines, and we are here just to have a chat tonight about wellness, about remembering is one of the words that I know that you use in your program, so I thought we might chat a bit about that, and wellness for women and what that looks like, and from your perspective.
Hey, how exciting.
So tell us a little bit about you and what you see as your place in this world.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I feel like this is such a big question. And I also so nervous when people ask me like what do I do? So I'm glad you kind of reframed that into my purpose in this world. So I'm a mama of two, but I guess I shouldn't always lead with being a mama. It is definitely a huge part of who I am and my identity.
Yeah.
But as women, as mums, are so much more than that, I think. My purpose in the world, I have been working within holistic health, women's work, women's health realm for this is when you do the maths, Dani. I reckon 15 plus years.
Yeah.
Under many different modalities. I think it took me a long time to find what my purpose was. I always knew it was something within that spiritual holistic health realm, and I spent a long time collecting qualifications as I do when we are searching for that. What am I here to share? What is my gift?
Yep.
And I don't think I truly stumbled upon that until I really entered motherhood, and these things have the power of reflecting everything back at you. And unearthing layers of myself that I didn't even know needed unearthing, or that were possible. So I think I've always innately been really spiritual and really connected in those spaces, but never really fully stepped into my gifts in that way of actually conversing with spirit, working with source, and trusting that inner guidance. So I think I seeked out a lot of different qualifications. So I have qualifications in so many different realms.
Yeah.
And some comes together in my own unique way, which is truly led by spirit and source and my own inner and innate knowing. And I'm here supporting women and guiding women through motherhood, but back to themselves, and to decondition, I think, all of what we should be, or how we should be showing up in this world, or how we should be mothering, and actually coming back to the core of who we are at our deepest, most essence. And we do that in a way that's really gentle, through hypnosis, through visualization, through breath, through movement, through embodiment work. And we unpeel all of these conditioned layers so that women can actually find who they are at the essence of it all, right? And so I work with women, whether you're coming into matrescence from that maiden to mother. I work with women who are in the depths of motherhood, or maybe women who are on the other side where those children are now spreading their wings and leaving the nest, and they're going, oh, shit, I've got to see who I am again in amongst all. So working with women through all rites of passage, in coming home to who they truly are, and remembering, coming back to that core essence and the magic that we have within, accessing those desires and dreams and what we want from this world and this life.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about remembering who we are. In your experience, when do we start to forget?
I think that's such an interesting one, because I have been gifted such a unique perspective from watching my work. We're at the Waldorf Steiner School in Mount Barker with the girls, and Poppy's just gone into class 1. So they amalgamate the 3 kindy classrooms together and they are all turning 7 this year, and they create the cohort of class 1. And to watch the difference between little girls and little boys come together, and I think being a school teacher, you would see this a lot. Like, girls are so innate in this gathering and understanding and pulling together, but they're also really innate in playing out with language and tone and communication, and often with what they're seeing at home, and playing out these themes often of like wounded mother lines and matriarchal lines. So it's been really interesting to watch Poppy struggle in that sense of, oh, I now have to fit in to a broader cohort and I'm not just me anymore. So I think from my experience, we start to be conditioned as little girls, and we start to become really aware of the world around us and what's expected of us from around 7.
Yeah.
Which aligns with that energetic work. Like, that's when our chakras are like all starting to activate and come into themselves. That's when our ego is starting to really land within our body. It's when we're getting those molars in the back of our teeth, which are to do with us fully landing in our body and not just being this sort of soul free spirit. We're really landing in the essence of whom we are. It's also when the subconscious and conscious brain starts to really shift and sort of become 2 separate things rather than this sort of like one governing body within us. So I think it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff shifting within us at that age, but I think we become aware of the world around us.
Yeah. Yeah, those little blinkers become a bit more open.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as a high school teacher, I see that happen between about year 7 and year 8, so between 12 and 13. So often when the 7s come in, they're really like open and quite just happy to try things, happy to fail in front of each other, lightheartedness. Hello, everyone, be quiet. There, and then some of them are ahead of others, but I often see, like, I can remember this one student in particular between year 7 and year 8. I thought something had happened to her. Like, I was like, what? Are you okay? Is everything okay with you? It was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it was watching this kind of effervescence kind of contract. And I do also notice that in the later years that comes back. But this, full contraction of, oh, am I okay? Like, that feeling of, have I said too much? Have I done too much? Have I been really me? And then that's really risky, because that somebody can really hurt you if you're really being yourself, and then somebody has a dig at that. That's like the core of you. If you're just pretending, it's not so hurtful.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's such a broad and big thing, right? Like, I think cultural and social conditioning, but then also and the expectations we have on girls versus boys, and there's it's so multi-dimensional and so layered. And I dare say there's moments where we find ourselves throughout our life, and then we kind of get a little bit lost, and then we find a different part of ourselves lost. But I think it's in that depth of motherhood, in that real sacrifice of all that you are, because you're thrown into having these little people completely dependent on you, that it sort of becomes easier, or women are very much praised for, giving the shirt off of their back. And I think with that sort of self-care and like putting mums first than we probably ever have in society. But it's often women who are praised for giving, and most of us really struggle to receive and to be and to know who we are underneath all of things.
Yes, definitely. I do sense, and it's interesting, like the last talk I did was with Carly, and obviously you and Carly are really close, but after having that chat, And watching you girls as you bring up your babies, it's so beautiful to see that. I can see that the tides are changing, that there are things that are moving, even in the time that, you know, since I obviously have an 18, a 15, and a 12-year-old. So I'm kind of coming out of that stage. I'm still a mum, but yeah, at that time it was a real, you know, push, a real fight, a real claiming of who we were as mums and what that looked like. And it's so different for everybody. The journey's really different, and I think if there's something that's going to come up, yeah, and it hasn't, like you said, it will.
Yeah, like like everything sort of compounds in every rite of, if we don't address it as a woman, get that first bleed. And then if we don't address it when we move through the birth portal, and then, you know, it's going to start hitting at perimenopause, and you're going to have to deal with the stuff from when you were like in your teen years, as well as through birth and that rite of passage into motherhood. Then you start to hit it on the other side. And I think I'm seeing that a lot as well within my work and working with women who are entering that sort of menopause phase of life. And yeah, if they haven't done that inner work or any of that inner excavation, often it is lots of that trauma or that memory through those rites of passage that start to come up at the other side. Our life has a very magical way of getting us to move through the lessons that we're here to move through. Maybe ready to move through them, I don't know. Or, you know, I think the depth of the layers can get deeper, and we can start to peel them back a little bit more the more we surrender inwards rather than trying to seek outside of ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess the society that we live in constantly reaffirms that everything that we need is outside of ourselves, when in fact none of that makes you happy, none of that satisfies you. It is always inside out. It's always the authentic, for me, it's my opinion, but the authentic path, the lasting path, the one that's going to take you through to those deeper levels of happiness and finding like who you are.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting, and I think we have all these values, and it is until you maybe hit some of them that you realize maybe they're not your values. Like an example for us, and it takes a lot of self-awareness in this, but we knocked down and rebuilt our house, and we built this brand new home, which we had always wanted, right? We'd always wanted this brand new home. And we walked into this brand new home, and it was beautiful, and it was all of our life savings, and we were so proud of it. But it didn't feel that thing that we thought it was going to feel, right? My husband sat down and we went, it's actually not as high a value for us as we thought it was, right? Like we did all the things we were meant to do. We were in our mid-30s and we're building our brand new house, and we have this beautiful family. And then we did it and we went, okay. It's lovely and we're very proud of ourselves still, but it actually is not as high as we thought it was on our value. Like we anywhere in the world, living in anything, and as long as we're together as a family, like it was like a pivotal moment for both of us to go, okay, this is one of those things that we've been told we should have by however old we should have it by. And like it makes life comfortable, but it doesn't change who we are as people. It doesn't change how we parent. It doesn't make our kids better kids. Like it just didn't do all the things I think we thought this house was going to do.
I can totally relate to that. When we built our house a couple of years ago and we moved into my husband's grandma's unit, so a 2-bedroom unit. So at the time Isaac would have been 16, so 16, 13 and 10, and they had a triple bunk in this one room, and everyone was like, oh my God, I don't know how you guys did that. But they talk about that time like it was the best, like a camping trip. Like, we had so much fun. And then when we moved back into our house, of course it was exciting and all of this sort of stuff. But I just imagined in my head that then this was going to be when they started to invite all their friends over, because I thought that And they didn't invite people over because they were, you know, not proud of our little old red brick house, or it wasn't big enough. It didn't have the space. And nothing changed. Nothing changed at all. Yes, sometimes they have their friends over, but it's not like it doesn't mean anything to them really. And yeah, it's quite surreal. Especially, are you in the same spot that you knock down and rebuild? It's so weird. Sometimes you're like, oh, the new house, and then you're like, oh, but we're here. It's like a really weird time line thing. Yeah. We're on the soil that we're right where we were.
Yeah. It so is. And my eldest is my super intuitive, sensitive one, and she cried for a good 6 months every time she went to bed because she wanted to go home.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we did the same thing, right? Like, we've got these beautiful big bedrooms, but they slept in the same room for the first almost year that we were here because they just needed this closeness, and they needed like they felt with each other rather than the actual house. And like you said, we are in some weird time warp because our front garden's the same as what it was with the old house.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting. I think when you start to become self-aware of the things that you think you should be striving for, good in life, as a woman, in your career, in your purpose, versus taking a moment to pause and go inward and actually, how does this feel for me? Like, does this feel true for me? Does this feel aligned for me? Like, I think I spent a big portion of my life striving for all of these things that I thought other people wanted of me or desired of me. And that's what I think as well. It was so wild and mind-blowing to me. It was my perception of what I thought other people, like my parents or my teachers, it wasn't actually what anyone had ever said to me. It was just this idea, you know. I spent so long striving for all of these things until I was burnt out, until I, you know, felt really lost and I wasn't lit up. And it was because I was chasing all of these things for some level of praise or, I don't know, acceptance, or, you know, of why we do these things. I don't know. And what I need.
Hang on a sec. Sorry, just breaking up. That might be my end.
That's okay.
Sorry, go again.
Yeah, so I spent a long time striving outside of myself. I created, I suppose, from what other people expected of me. Till I hit motherhood, that I started to become really self-aware of that stuff, of like, hang on a second, like, what actually feels good for me right now in the choices I'm making for my children, but in the choices I'm making for myself and for our life. And I think motherhood again became such a catalyst for me, because you've got these little people watching you. So we talk about, you know, go, you can do whatever you desire, go for your dreams, you know, you can do anything you want in this world. I can't sit here and say all of those things when they're watching me not do that, when they're watching me play it safe and stay on the, you know, on the road, the path that I'm meant to be on, because everyone else has decided that that's what that path is. So I think, again, that was like, where motherhood projected me so far forward, because all of a sudden it was like, actually, you've got to back up what you're saying here. You can't just, you know, they don't give a shit. Kids don't give a shit about what you're saying. They don't care about the words that are coming out of your mouth. They're like reading all of you, right? So if I'm not happy and something doesn't feel true to me, especially my eldest is very intuitive, looks at me daily and goes, what you're saying doesn't match the energy that's coming out of your body right now. And she finds the world very confusing, because she's like, these people say this stuff, but that's not what their body's actually saying. So I've had to really expand and really meet my edges over and over again to lead the way, to show the way of what's possible, what we can do, and not just talk all these beautiful things that we want for our daughters, but actually show them.
Yeah. And I guess on that, and having daughters, I don't have daughters, I have boys, and that's my path. But in the last couple of months, I have been doing lots of research and reading and listening to podcasts a lot about, because I'm in the perimenopausal heading in that direction. And I realized in my growing up, in terms of becoming a woman and getting a menstrual cycle, there was no information given. So obviously my mum did the best that she could, but she basically told me, you know, these are the products that you use and get on with it. And there was some really negative connotations around, you know, PMSing or being hormonal, all of those things. So I get to being 47 years old and I'm looking up luteal phase. And I'm like, how can I be 47 and not know this language?
Right.
It is insane, absolutely insane to me. I'm like, right, Dani, you got to get on top of this. You need to, you know, like, so I'm like taking notes. I'm learning about what foods to eat in different parts of your cycle, and I'm just mind blown. And I wonder, like, what do you see for your girls? What will be like your priorities when they get to that? I know they're a little way away from that.
Excited for this. One of the girls that was part of our school group friends, her daughter has just started bleeding, and they did the most beautiful little ceremony on the beach together of her welcoming, of her coming to age. And it's a woman's first rite of passage. And I get so fired up with how taboo this is, but I'm pretty sure you just have to look at any taboo subject around a woman's health, and that's where your magic lies. And I hate that generations of women that haven't known that this is a fucking superpower, and you've walked through your life with so much shame and guilt and all of the cultural and social taboos around it, because there's so much power in that. But I do also think you having sons, it has such a profound flow-on effect, because your sons will become the husbands and the dads who are now hold these beautiful things. But yeah, what do I see for my girls? I think just that it's normal, and it's it is a complete initiation into womanhood, and that we are cyclical, and our cyclical nature provides us with so much magic and understanding about our inner world and the history, like pre-history of the menstrual cycle, of how important it was for us to cycle with the moon, how we were considered completely spiritual beings. We were often the ones that were guiding tribes and things like that through our menstrual phases because of prolific dreams. And, you know, all of this was so normal for a really long time, and it all got really taken away from us and tabooed, and it was all part of that rise of the patriarchal systems and the shift in religious dogma that sort of, you know, spread across the world. But yeah, it's actually on my list next year, Dani. I'm partway through writing a book for and it is around the taboos of our bodies and history, or her story of these things. So I do hope that not just my girls, but, you know, all of our young women who move through this first rite of passage are held in somewhat of a better capacity than what my mum was, or your generation. And probably lots of women, even in my generation, like, you know, when we first bled, it wasn't dissimilar to yours. Like, our parents did the best with what they knew, but it still was very much a sweep it under the carpet and just, you know, just blend it all in. But again, I feel like if we can gift our girls and our upcoming generations the understanding of their bodies from that age, I think you're going to have mothers that walk a very different path in this. If they know.
It starts there, doesn't it? It starts with that recognition of being a cyclical being.
Yes, and when to be creative and to not fight against that, because our world works on 24-hour cycle, which is the cycle of the sun, which is the cycle of the masculine, right? Like our world way. yet we work over a 28-day cycle. Like our hormones work over a 28-day cycle, our bodies work over a 28-day cycle, our spiritual gifts work over a 28-day cycle.
Yeah.
We're not made to wake up with the same level of energy every day. So yeah, that's the one thing that I could give to every woman in the world, for them to understand this.
Yeah. That recognition. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, amazing. I'm like, oh, so much work to do. So much work to do.
Or not so much work to do. I think it's all inside you. You've lived.
Remembering.
Yeah, right. You've lived this your whole entire life. It's just meeting it with a different lens.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I guess I think really actually birthing and becoming pregnant was I was interested in spirituality and those sorts of things beforehand, and doing, like, I guess, clairvoyant type training, intuitive type training, all that sort of stuff. So that was all there in the background. But getting kind of that very real life stuff, like talking about when I had a home birth, Isaac's 18, it was very rare. It was really taboo. It was really, oh my gosh, my poor mother-in-law, she was beside herself, and, what was going to happen. And yeah, but her mum was fantastic.
Yes.
She was like, that's how all the babies were born. Just in one generation, just a completely different opinion. So, but that really, that I guess opened up a warrior part in me. That started the lioness, that part of you that can roar when something happens to your child or you have to advocate for your child. Mm-hmm. That part of me that really was never, I found it very hard to conflict and those types of things, and having children really started that remembering for me of my strength and my voice and how to advocate for myself and how to say no and how to say thank you but no thank you.
Yes.
And they're really, I have them to thank for that. They're part of my journey of becoming stronger, of moving out of that maiden and into that, the strength of that mother that, I perhaps would not have said those things for myself, but to advocate for my child. Well, watch out, I'll bowl, I'll bowl you over if you're going to, hurt my child.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can honestly say that, yes, that was the start of the very grounded journey of that strength growing in me as a woman. And it hasn't stopped, since then.
No, because you're heading into your Marga phase, and I can't wait to get to the Marga phase. Like, you're stepping into your wise woman. You're like, shedding back those layers of giving no shits even further, right? And this is where, and this is, again, if we look culturally at what's tabooed, we taboo our Margas and Crohns, right? Everyone's getting a little bit crazy. They're going through this change of menopause, perimenopause. Everyone's losing the plot. They're getting a little bit lunatic. And it's not at all. You're like stepping into your power and you're becoming more vocal. And culturally, we don't really want women to be vocal. We tried to burn them thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Vocal women who know who they are and know what they value and know what they want in this world. And I think that's, again, where there's a lot of medicating. There's a lot of, you need to outsource this phase of your life. Don't turn inward. Please don't do that, because if you do that, you're going to find, again, who you are on a more powerful level than what you already did stepping into motherhood. So yeah, I think I'm just such an advocate for like holding space for all of those rites of passage, and for women to really understand the power and strength and like incredibleness that they hold within them at each of those phases.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's going to change the world. That, we talk about the new paradigm, we talk about that 2027 shift, and we're in it. We're moving through it all right now. And I think that remembering that awakening is going to come from the mothers, because we are the central pillar of that household, and energetically we're already weaving all of that stuff. But we need to find that vigor within ourselves to birth this new age for our children.
Yeah. Yes, because it is, and it is a whole new world. And, you know, sometimes people worry about that. My mum, you know, she often worries, and I say, yeah, but they're wired for it.
Yeah,
They've come here for
yes,
this.
yes.
Yeah.
100%. And like we spoke about, I don't know what it would have been when you had your boys, but like when I had my girls, it was like the indigo children and the starseed children. We talk about these different children that come through at different times, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because we're seeing a lot of really low fertility rates. We're seeing people really struggling to conceive right now. And I've friends who work in and around these spaces, and we all sort of are getting the same messages from spirit and source, but like these kids are asking for these wombs to be clear. Like there is a lot of inner work that is being asked of the mothers right now who are bringing through this next generation of children to really do the inner work, and these babies will not land for anything less than the vibrational frequencies that they actually are needing to come into.
Got a shiver then when you said that. Yeah.
It's big, and it's asking a lot of mothers, and I think we are seeing women turning to a lot more holistic practices, or, you know, doing a lot more of the inner work and not just, you know, going to the doctors and wanting the answer. Like, yes, I think there are definitely still things in the 3D world that are contributing to the infertility rates, but I also think these little souls, these spirits that are coming through right now, they're asking for a lot more from their mums before they even arrive in their wombs or side. And it's definitely that we are seeing in the energetic birthing spaces.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Would you talk a little bit about your program, Remembering, and what that involves? And
so Days of Remembering is one of my latest programs. So it was 13 days, and it was set up in a way where we would journeying with women through different activations. So I would channel meditations or activations, laying the foundations of her story, so that all of the history that lots of us didn't learn in school, challenging that belief that, you know, the history that we've been taught is this one perspective, often written by the victors, and often a very egoic recount of what happened. And in doing so, and unearthing and setting these foundations with potentially these altering perspectives of our history or our her story. So history from the perspective of she, from her, from women moving through the world. And then allowing women to turn inward to discover their own inner truth within that, and what does that look like, and starting to discern when we hear things whether they feel true inward for us versus just, you know, going, oh, well, that's what we've been taught, or that was what was written in the book, so that has to be the truth. But actually taking those moments to go, oh, hang on, how does that actually sit in my body? And then we dove a little bit deeper, and we went into some womb activations and connecting with our cellular memory of our mother lines. So calling in our ancestors. Yeah. Which are all living within us. We have so much research now around torsion field physics, and the understanding of quantum physics has really helped us to sort of detangle some of these theories. But we have 15 generations of memory woven within our DNA helix structure, and often we don't understand living on that timeline anymore, and we're having these lived experiences reacting in this life. So we can sort of feel all of this within the subconscious mind and within like the delta planes, and access all of those things. So we had some really big sheddings of the womb. We had some really big openings of those ancestral motherline memories, and connecting with those ancestors, and maybe healing those traumas of the witch wounds, the sister wounds, the father wounds, the mother wounds, the stupid voice, sexuality and pleasure, you know, all of these themes that have been carried throughout our lives because of the history of the woman and how we move through these passages, and then bringing it all together with like an integration into this timeline. So working more deeply on my womb radar, but working very much in the cellular memory and the reactivation and changing the frequency and vibration of cellular planes. so that ultimately we don't have to be doing the work. We're just shifting it at our core to step forward into remembering our people who have passed, but also ultimately ourselves in the process of. So yeah, we spoke about strength as well, which is interesting that you brought that up about stepping into the strength of your motherhood, because I have this theory around strength becoming this sort of this armor I've been taught to wear, conditioned to wear, and it has always come from a place of protection from, I think, our ancestors. And we taught our daughters to protect themselves, to be strong, because it was a risk of actually being prosecuted for using your voice and being outspoken and things. But it becomes so habitual that I think we squashed our daughters. In particular, watching my aunt pass over this year and watching her transverse a death portal, and things that she would say and things that she died with inside her, because she was so strong, right? And she's praised for being so strong, but she ultimately lost the essence of whom she was in bearing this strength through her whole life. Like she was conditioned to be strong. That's just what a woman was. You just had to be strong.
Yeah.
And she just copped it all and took it all on the chin because she was strong, because she was strong, because she was strong. But literally it cost her knowing who she was and never standing up for herself and her desires, that she did everything everyone else expected of her, and she was strong, right?
Yeah.
I think lots of women wear this strength as this outer armor of protection, and peeling that back and coming back into that the essence of the feminine flow, and finding your softness and finding strength within your softness, not being strong in your martyr, right?
Yeah.
Playing with lots of those themes and journeying for 13 days and peeling it all back before landing back in our bodies, renewed and reactivated and remembering.
Amazing.
Yes.
My gosh, my goodness, that's just and I'm so impressed that you can, because often I find the work that we do, sometimes there are not words and it's tricky.
Thank you for saying that, because I do struggle. People go, what do you do? And I'm like, we do a heap of cool stuff, and I don't really know where it's going to take you, but it takes you places, and then you come out and you feel really good afterwards.
And I over the years I have struggled with putting words to what I do in the yoga classroom, because it works on energetics and it works on I guess it's led with my intuition. And there just really wasn't, because yoga is it's a system, right? So I learned the system, and then, as I always do in true Dani form, then I wanted to break the system, because I don't like being controlled. So I like to do things out of the box. But for a long time, I just didn't really have words for that. But listening and watching and observing. Hang on one second. What's the matter?
I'm just going to make eggs.
Right, you're not eating. Sorry, this is boy world here. We've come home from training with Dani.
I can't wait for you to use this.
All you've got to do is put it in the pan and then break the eggs into it. It's not hard.
I'm starving.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Those eggs there are free range, and they were given to us. They're very nice ones. Yes, those. Okay. A lot of my world is about organising food, really.
Yeah.
fueling. So it's really great to hear the generation coming around your time, and you guys being able to verbalize things so beautifully. I'm like, aha, yes. It's just incredible to see you guys fly with.
We are very lucky. I think we're really blessed with the world of social media. I know lots of people poo-poo it, and there's so many discussions around it, but it's making information so accessible. And I think we are really at a beautiful generation of where that science and spirituality are really being merged, and there are people doing incredible things and creating language and with science in so many layers. So, you know, you've got people like your Zach Bushes and your Joe Dispenzas who are doing like incredible, like proper research, like scientific papers all around consciousness and, you know, the human body and the spirit and, you know, all of those kinds of things. So I think, maybe all of that science didn't go to waste at high school, and I was drawn to those subjects as well as all the arty ones for a reason, and in my weird polarity of choices of topics. But I think we are very lucky that, you know, we are that generation who's being able to not only put it into practice, but like you said, we have the word and the understanding, and I can't wait to watch what my girls' generation does and what's considered normal for them.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I think we'll be, you know, I'll be the grandma sitting back going, oh, amazing, look at that.
You're going to step fully into your wise crone. You'll be like, I am here, I have done the work, I passed away.
I'm still learning. So in the work that you do, what would you say would be the biggest challenge that women face in this time and place? What do you see as a recurring theme or something that stands out?
Slowing down and receiving are the biggest two, probably in the last few months. But if I was to sort of, you know, look at my work over the last couple of years, it would be the same thing. Like in my one-on-one program, it's very much designed for that first 4 weeks that, like, I don't give them work to do, and everyone gets really uncomfortable, really in what is there and what's underneath what's there. To allow it to all bubble the surface. I think innately as human beings, we really suck at being in between. Like we really struggle with the in between.
Yeah, like transitioning when you're in birth, when you're giving labor, it's like the worst place. That bit in the middle, you're like, I'm gonna lose it.
So it is. It's that slowing down to create the space to actually be present. Present with it all. And then I've done a lot of work over the last few months with unlocked heart chakras and even like just tension around rib cages. And I wouldn't say women are struggling to come back into their intuition. I think lots of women know that it's there and they sense that it's there. It's just learning to follow it. And I think that's the fear of the stillness and the slowness, because then the intuition gets louder. And then for lots of women, that then you realize the distance of where you want to be versus where you are, and that can feel really stretchy and really But then I guess that's the power of working with energetics and in the quantum, is that time doesn't actually exist. So it can feel really big and stretchy, and we can put 10 years on that journey if you want to, or we could put 2 weeks on it. So, you know, you get to choose.
Yeah. Unlike birth, where you don't, it happens how it happens.
There's still no time space in birth, is it? I mean, for 48 hours and it could not feel like 48 hours.
Yeah, it felt like 48 hours for me. Oh my God.
Surrendering and turning inward, were you trying to fight and stay on this earthly plane?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was the start of it all. Like, you need to learn to let go, Dani. You cannot control this situation. This is about surrender.
Out of control, that's definitely a big one too. But I think that's where this work is so powerful, and it's the same for in birth, right? And I say it to all of my birthing clients, like, you can't birth with your head. Like, you've got to stop, you've got to turn around, and you've got to walk through it. The more you try and like fight it and you try and step out of it, that's when it's hard, and that's when it gets really long and it gets really intense. But if you actually turn around and stop trying to run away from it and run towards it, you get out the other side heaps quicker.
Yeah. And that's where you have to find that knowing in you that you are strong enough to do this.
Yeah, and it's made to break the maiden, right? Like, we want to break her into a million pieces because you've got to come back as the mother. You can't mother maiden. Like, it's literally designed to take us to our edges, metaphorically and physically to our edges.
Yeah.
as a mother with our babies.
Yeah, so true. So true. And, it's 18 years ago now, but just so life-changing for my husband too, who was there in that space and being, watching the feminine and the masculine together and watch him, coming to his fatherhood. And it makes me get emotional now. I remember after I had Isaac, I couldn't find him, and I was like, "Where are you?" And I was like calling him, and I found him in the bed, would have been the baby's bedroom at that time, and he was sitting there rocking, just crying, just like absolutely. He was like, "Oh my God!" Like it's such an amazing time. It changes you, changes fathers too.
Yes, I'm a huge advocate of my work. Having men understand the pivotal role that they have within the birthing space, I think, is so important. And allowing them and giving them permission to be able to hold the space for their woman, right? And watch her transverse that and become a mother and allow their own initiation in that process. Like, I'm such an advocate for educating men around that space as much as women are birthing, and we can do in terms of our own inner work. Men do really have an incredible energetic role within the birth space.
And I think that, as the feminine starts to rise, it's so important that that the masculine, that we come together. We've had these ups and these crosses, but now it's about the joining of the two. And I look at like my boys, they have at school they had a whole information session on girls' periods or painful periods, maybe what that was about, what happens to a girl during that time. They were given sort of like all of them. I think all the boys were together. Were all the boys together? Was it just the boys in the room?
In what?
In the period talk at school?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just put all the boys together and did their talk for them. I mean, that's culture shifting.
Yeah.
We didn't even get that as girls. Now we've got the boys, so they have some understanding about what that's all about. Even things like cooking and like my boys both really loved getting in the kitchen and learning how to, cook. And like, that's culture changing. That is something that was not available when I was at high school for, which is it just seems crazy. But they have a huge lot of boys going into food tech because they love eating. They love they love cooking as well.
To survive in the world, and like cooking food, the basic survival, right?
It's pretty basic, yeah. Not having to rely on your mum or your wife to feed yourself, that's that's pretty basic, but culture changing too.
I talk a lot in my work around and like the rise of the patriarchy and how and when things shifted from like traditional pagan roots to sort of where we are now. And I think people get so stuck on this idea that it is just this feminine rising, and it's really not. Like, men have suffered incredibly through the rise of patriarchy and also all of their rights. They lost everything on their cycle of life. It wasn't just women who'd lost that. I'm speaking from a woman's perspective because that's my personal experience. But, incredible things around men's work, and been going to men's circles and, does men's and, there are men who are doing this work and bringing back the rights of passion for boys and of honouring their coming of age and, honouring them stepping into fatherhood. Like, there is stuff out there for this next generation, and it is cultural changing. It will change our men and it will change our women, and hopefully we see a beautiful unity come back to this masculine and feminine energy that's within all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a long time ago, but it's been like a cornerstone of my my sharings is Carolyn Meese, and Anatomy of the Spirit, and she talks a lot about the importance of ceremony and how energetically someone who's had no ceremony, and it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter if it's a candle at home and a celebration, the backyard and the naming day, or it's in church or whatever it is, but energetically those people who haven't celebrated or haven't had those beautiful days of recognizing that they've walked through a place of change struggle in the world energetically because they haven't been initiated in their energetic systems. And I just find that so fascinating because I mean, a lot of people relied on church to do that for, you know, at a you know, an all-time low, people maybe just get their kids baptized, and you know, and a lot of people just still do it and do it because that's the done thing to do, but there's still that little bit of that ceremony. Other people have really, you know, pushed that away and have had, obviously lots of people have had really bad experiences with the church and are like, I'm not going anywhere near a church, or but I think it's important that that idea of ceremony and initiation is held, and its value is held, and I guess communicated why it's so important energetically to, you know, like for boys to be initiated for, you know, that beautiful ceremony that you had your friend on the beach. They energetically, they help the human to understand that they belong to a larger system.
Yeah, I think if we maybe forget that ritual and ceremony doesn't have to be these big, profound, and, you know, huge things. And I think things are shifting. Like, there's so many women having, you know, mother's blessings instead of the traditional baby showers nowadays, and really honouring the mother and who she's becoming, and not just, you know, buying gifts for the baby. Like, I think things are definitely. But yeah, I think the ceremony has been hijacked for so long that, you know, that connection to source can only become through the ordained, and, you know, all of that. I think we forget that it can be something so simple, like just, you know, on that birthday from a mum or a dad, and it can just be a cuddle and sitting there telling stories of their childhood, how they're like moving, you know, symbolistic of their manhood or their womanhood or whatever.
Yeah.
Big and deep things. It just has to be honoured with intention and reverence.
Yeah, and I think that's part of that. Well, all these systems that are starting to crumble and starting to be rebuilt with the power of the individual, of the self, but also the community. But the recognition of the power that we have, and within us, but also then as in community. I guess it's twofold, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think also understanding, again, like there's no time and space, so you haven't missed those ceremonies. Like, we can go back and hold ceremonies for any point of transition in your life and honor them. It doesn't mean that they're gone forever because you didn't get that held for you on your first bleed, or when you stepped into manhood, or when you stepped into fatherhood or motherhood. You know, we can energetically hold all of those transitions now when people are ready. Like, we can still honor those ceremonies and those.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and you can see, I guess, on a simple level or on a religious level, you can see like when people get baptized in their, you know, as adulthood, and how that affects them, how they feel after that type of ceremony. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's our connection to others, isn't it? And our connection to spirit and to source.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, there's no time frame on those things. Like, we can honor it whenever we desire or feel called, and that can be people, like, especially with the level of birth trauma and things that are, you know, just around in the world at this point in time. Like we can still go back and honor births and honor those walkings of those thresholds.
Yeah. All right. I'm conscious of time. I could just talk all night. 3 simple tips, 3 simple tweaks that you would share for women to increase their wellness on any level. What are the first 3 that you would say?
Oh, maybe yourself, Rachel. No, I think 3 of my biggest tips would just be creating moments of pause. And instead of acting from how you've always done things, taking a moment of pause to be in that stillness and consciously making a choice towards your desires from that place. Because I feel like that's just such a big one for me. I think because I still fall in the habit of it, right? You know, you do the crazy morning routine, and I've done all the things, and then like and then go, oh, I just needed to take a moment. I just needed to pause and actually make a choice on, am I doing the lunchbox now, or is it going to be beneficial for me to sit and have my cup of tea before I madly rush into the lunchbox? And actually creating that beautiful communication with your own body and going, actually, what do I need right now to fill me up? And make this process not a horrible one. So that would be number 1. I think number 2 would be opening those communication lines between your body and just starting to hear her whispers before they become screams. And again, that from that stillness of breath, stillness of mind, you know, whatever practice that is for you, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's just putting some music on and just moving your body in any weird and wonderful ways just because you need to come back to your body. I think we spend so much of our time living up in our minds that we just forget all of the other wisdom and language that's constantly being communicated with us.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be to surrender all logic around that. To understand, you know, I've got this pain in my lower back, and instead of taking the Panadol or seeking the physio straight away, like, can we actually just surrender the logic and sit with that sensation in our body and allow it to be what it is and to guide us where it needs to guide us? You know, I think just we try to understand and logically, you know, put words to things too much, I think, in this world, and sometimes we can just let it be. If you just need to have a cry, have a cry. Does it need to be attached to anything? Does it have to have a reason? Probably not. But your body knows.
Yeah. It may not even be your sadness. It might be something that you just...
So many episodes. You can just be angry because you're angry. It doesn't have to be because someone did whatever, and we try to attach all these stories. I think that's what gets us in such a mess. Like, just be angry and move it through your body.
And let it go, yeah, better out than in.
So just I think creating pockets of stillness, turning inward to like recognize and connect with what we want to choose in that moment and what feels good for us in our body for no logical reason, just because that's what's actually feeling good right now. And some level of non-attachment to all that is. Let's surrender the...
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much for chatting, and it's just lovely to connect with you. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yes, so social media is the best place to find me. So @with_Leanna on Instagram and also on Facebook. I've had a real issue birthing a website. It's taken me like 2 years. It's kind of still lives in the ethers and no one can see it, but hopefully it'll be up and running in the next week or so, because I have some programs launching next year that I need it to be available for. So that will be up and running, yes, hopefully very soon, but that's www.withleanna.com.au. But social media is your best bet because I'm not tech savvy, and that is just where everything lives at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It has just been a joy to connect, and hopefully it won't be too long between the next time.
No, I just want to say a big thank you as well, because obviously I have known you, I don't even know, but let's not do the maths on that. But I've known you for a very long time, and you were a teacher of mine in high school. But I really want to acknowledge, and I don't know if Carly acknowledged it, but I feel like you held such a pivotal role for lots of us throughout in terms of opening us up to spirituality, and that there was more to this world and more to us. And we were so blessed to be connected to such beautiful people through our coming of age. And I just want you to know that you were such a huge part of that for more than one of us.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind.
And the part that you held within lots of our journeys.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think I did say to Carly, it's made me think about that a lot the last few weeks, is that you never know what your impact will be on others. And having that chat with her and you has actually reinforced my what's the word? I guess inspired me to connect with the person. Obviously I'm a creative, so I love creating things with kids and performances and stuff like that. But sometimes I think, okay, let that go, and it's really important to connect with the child first, and then all the other stuff after that. And it's been a really amazing couple of weeks, because I've really done that, and I've just had so many great interactions with kids in the last couple of weeks. They're still breaking open my heart and pulling my armor off and challenging me to be more myself and more authentic. So the learning never ends.
And you always saw us, and I think we all noticed that, and we are very, very grateful for it.
Oh, and thank you for seeing me, because it was a huge time at that time. So thank you for seeing me, and thank you for sharing all your beautiful knowledge. It's just a joy to watch you expand into your highest timeline and to your highest gifts. It's an absolute honor, and I can't wait to see what you're doing by the time you reach the crone status. Wow.
Oh, that's good and proper.
All right, my love.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.